We are on question 5 of our series, and this one we'll start with Ms. Hoytinga. The Great Lakes are perhaps Michigan's greatest natural resource, but some believe they're threatened by numerous issues, including invasive species, an aging oil pipeline through the Straits of Mackinac, and other natural and man-made phenomena. What do you feel the government's role should be in managing the Great Lakes?
We absolutely must protect the Great Lakes. Enbridge, the oil lining, is 200 feet deep. It sits at the bottom of Lake Michigan. It's on the west side of the Mackinac Bridge. And there is concern that that could rupture. And legitimately, there is concern about that. Nobody wants to pollute our Great Lakes. And so our Attorney General has recently hired an independent company, ordered an independent company to come in and see what the condition is of the Enbridge pipeline. And until we know the condition of that pipeline, we cannot make any decisions. It does transport crude oil. It no longer transport heavy crude, and so they have put some limits onto what can be transported through it, and they are taking steps to protect the lakes. But I feel it is the most, according to the transportation, it is the safest way to transport oil and gas, and it keeps it affordable for us.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Gibbert.
I think the risk at the Straits is too great, and would prefer the pipeline be shut down and the oil rerouted through existing pipelines. It's Canadian oil going to Canada. I don't see why we should risk our Great Lakes. That's all I have.
I would disagree. I would say that pipeline is monitored 24/7. It has shut-off valves. If something were to happen, we will keep it under control, and they're prepared for this. I think there are other options. Perhaps they can build structure around the existing structure, but this pipeline is providing affordable energy that we need. It is providing jobs and keeping the price of fuel low for us. So I think it is important to find out the condition of it before we react. We tend to overreact to certain things on emotion. Let's get the facts. And if indeed by a third independent company says that there are some issues, then we absolutely need to address them.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll move on to our next question. We'll start with Mr. Gaber.
Do I get a rebuttal on that?
You were the second respondent to that one, sir. I'm sorry.
Excuse me.
What kind of role do you believe government should play in education, and how much do you feel parents should be entitled to know about their children's education?
I think government should set the broad standards and provide the funding. Government should make sure that we have that a high school diploma here means similar to what a high school diploma means in Detroit or Forest Hills. I think the parents should have a great role in education. I was on the third grade reading bill that passed, for instance, I didn't like how the decision of retention was removed from the parent unless they requested an exception, unless they requested it through the superintendent. I think that took the parent out or the guardian out of the equation at a really crucial point. So the bill had other parts that I supported, but that part I did not.
Thank you. Ms. Whitinga.
I kind of forgot the question almost, but to respond to him, the third grade reading bill does involve the parents. They have a program in place where it's going to involve the parents and the teachers and the administration. And I've talked to the teachers about the third grade reading bill, and some of them said there was a split about how they felt with it, and some of them said it was almost waiting too late because your child, by the time they're in the third grade, they have made friends, and holding them back at the third grade is almost detrimental to their egos and not good. But we would prefer to hold a child back for a year rather than hold them back for life. If they can't read, if they're graduating and going on and cannot read, we have done a disservice to them, allowing them to graduate at an inadequate reading level. So, and I don't feel, do I have time? I don't feel that government should play a big role in the state. Decisions should be made at the local level with the school boards and the parents together.
Thank you. Mr. Gabert, a rebuttal?
I agree that the local school boards are important, but I think there should be some equity across the state. On the third grade reading bill, when the decision of retaining the child is made, then the parent has to request that be reviewed, and the approval is made by the superintendent. And I'm afraid that some kids would have better advocates, as better parents. As parents would advocate better for some kids than others, and they would be left behind. I like the funding for remedial reading services in that bill, though.
That was good.
Thank you, sir. We'll move on to question 7, and we'll start with Ms. Hoytinga. In light of recent shootings, including numerous at various public venues over the last few years, gun control is perhaps a hotter topic than it ever has been. What are your views on this issue?
I am pro-life and I am pro-Second Amendment. And I will do everything in my power to protect our Second Amendment rights, especially to the folks here in the district. The Democrats recently brought forth a bill and wanting to ban semi-automatic weapons, which I don't think they have an understanding of what those are. Those are our hunting rifles. Those are the actual gun that I carry for self-protection. Women carry semi-automatics for handguns for self-protection. We have gun-free zones, which are allowing people, let's look at what's happening in Chicago right now, currently. The highest murder rates, and they are such a gun-free city, and they have the highest murder rates. Criminals are not going to abide by the laws, but law-abiding citizens such as myself should have the right to protect ourselves from these criminals. And I will protect our Second Amendment with all my might. Absolutely.
Thank you. Mr. Gabert.
I think our rights come with responsibilities. I oppose the recent legislation introduced because, for one thing, it's not clear about whether grandfathering in existing guns is done, and I would support that. I would also support a reinstatement of the 1994 ban on assault rifles, because that did allow for grandfathering in of existing guns. I don't want to confiscate anyone's guns belonging to law-abiding people. I think it'd be unconstitutional and impractical, impossible. I would like to, over time, over a long period of time, I think, tone it down. Chicago has a problem because it's a hop, skip, and a jump from Indiana, from the suburbs, from Wisconsin. I think these have to be done so they're nationally if we do anything. And I don't think that's in conflict with the Second Amendment. I hunt, or I used to hunt, and I have a .30-30 and a .22. They seem to be adequate for deer and small game. So.
Thank you, sir. A rebuttal, Ms. Hoytinga?
Yeah, I believe your exact words were, I would like to ban the manufacturing of semi-automatics. I think that was how you felt. And that would just to me is really, really bad. That is a violation of our Second Amendment right to be able to have the opportunity to purchase them in the future. I will be handing my guns down to my sons, but my sons should be able to purchase the same caliber of weapon that I'm purchasing in this lifetime. So.
Thank you. Thank you, both. We'll move on to question 8, and we'll start with Mr. Gabert. The Common Core system of teaching math and reading has been implemented in many schools in recent years, and that implementation has been somewhat controversial with parents. What are your views on this issue?
I like the general idea of it, in that there is a Common Core. It was an idea that brought about by the states rather than mandated down. Now there are some financial incentives from this, so sort of, you see the federal role going into that now. One of the problems is that testing has changed, so it's hard to, it's hard to teach to tests that keep changing, so it's hard to measure whether we're meeting Common Core values. But with the content of the Common Core, I wasn't uncomfortable.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Hoytinga?
So I've visited with several schools and talked with the teachers and asked them how they felt about it. Their sentiment was that the Common Core offers levels where we should be achieving these certain marks that we're currently not achieving. So let's get rid of Common Core. Let's bring it to our local schools where we can hit these benchmarks. The kids in Detroit schools are dealing with different issues and challenges than we are here in our district. So a one-size-fits-all does not support a Common Core curriculum for all of the schools across the nation. The teachers are very frustrated with the testing that's coming along with us, and I agree with them. If they're spending their whole time testing, they're not in the classrooms doing the teaching, and I will support the teachers when they come forward and bring issues and say, hey, this is not working for us. I don't think teachers should feel like these are bipartisan issues. I will be a true advocate for the teachers, too.
Thank you. A rebuttal, Mr. Gabert?
Not a rebuttal. I would also be an advocate for the teachers. I think with the testing, we've kind of forgotten that the most important testing is not quantifiable. I mean, you remember a great teacher, it's not because you passed the test, let alone a standardized test. And that, to return to that a little bit, we would need to let the teachers teach.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you both. With that, it's now time for our second commercial break. This is the Michigan State House 102nd District Debate from the studios at MyNews 26. We'll be back in a moment.